All right, and we're live. This is Masculine Geek, episode number 10. Welcome, everyone. And today we're going to do a little geek show and tell, maybe some personal stories on top of that. We're probably going to bullshit for a little bit. And we maybe talk about a few other sundry things. So, as usual, stick around. You won't be disappointed. So, what were we talking about, Rob, before TJ interrupted us with his lateness?
Well, all I was saying was, in a nutshell, is something I've learned over the years is you got to just kind of go for it, kind of put yourself in a position where you're just not going to budge in a way, and you're just going to say, whether you're dealing with, and it doesn't matter who you deal with, whether you're dealing with women or you're dealing with another man, you kind of say, here's where I'm at. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm doing. And if you don't like it, that's okay. That you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. That's for sure.
You're not attached to the outcome of whatever that is.
Right. Yeah. Okay. You're just putting it out there, kind of being the invitation, so to speak, and seeing what shows up, what happens. And a lot of guys, they pussyfoot around with it. They play little games, and it's like, and I did that a long time ago. And it's because I think a lot of guys, they're afraid of offending. They're afraid of being told no, that somehow the word no is like life threatening. And it's like, and it's somehow a reflection on them. Like, if you're told no, it's because something's wrong with you. When the reality is, it just may be the offer, the opportunity, whatever it is you're presenting. Yeah, they may not want it, and that's okay, because I tell people no all the fucking time, and it's not personal about them. Like, I think somehow that they're less than. It's just, sorry, I'm not interested in what you're offering me. Kind of like telling a telemarketer or someone that calls you on the phone, and they're trying to sell you whatever widget they're trying to sell you, or whatever magazine subscription they're into. They're trying to tell you that, and sorry, not interested. It's nothing to do with them. It's just, I don't want your fucking product.
Exactly. So, and you're not afraid to hurt someone's feelings or at the expense of your boundaries.
Well, the problem isn't their feelings. The problem is them. It's like, if me saying no puts you into a tailspin, you need to look a little closer at yourself and say, what's going on here on my end? It's, being told no is, like I said, it's not a death sentence. And so, it's, if the other person's offended or upset by it, I mean, there's times I've been told no a lot in all kinds of aspects. And yeah, it can be disappointing. That it's like, oh, damn. Okay, well, that sucks. But I don't, you don't take it personal. And it's not like, well, that person's an asshole because they said no. It's, hey, they're just not interested in your offer. And to me, that it actually does me a favor, because it's like, oh, well, if you're not interested, somebody else will be. And I can move on that much quicker. And so that's how I kind of look at it.
No, that's a good philosophy, and it's a good way to comport yourself throughout the day.
Throughout life, man.
Well, that's true. As each day goes on, yes.
Right.
Now, TJ, is that your new pipe?
No, this is the one I got at Gettysburg. I'm still waiting for it to, because I just ordered it the other day. For those of you who don't know, I just ordered 2 clay pipes. One is we call it the Gandalf pipe, and that will be. And then I also ordered a little bit smaller one. One of them is pretty long. The other one's a little bit shorter. I'm going to have to do what George Bruno did, who was our guest on last week's episode. He did a video on his channel that you can go to, where he discussed ways to smoke a clay pipe without ruining your teeth, because it's much harder than others. So you wrap string around it, and that way you don't, especially when your parents, like mine, spend a lot of money on orthodontist type work.
Oh yeah, okay. that makes sense. Kind of like pull your teeth out a little bit. Gotcha.
Right.
Now, what are you smoking? What's the tobacco?
This is whiskey infused tobacco I've had for years. And this is stuff I keep in this little jar here in a dry area. But yeah, there's just a little bit left of it. I think after a while, tobacco will dry up. So you want to smoke it at some point pretty quickly. But if you're looking also for something to smoke that's affordable, you can't go wrong with tobacco pipe and with pipes, because you can get a corn cob pipe for $3, and then you can buy a pouch of tobacco for around $3, and that'll last you for, depending on how often you want to smoke, but if you're interested in smoking frequently, every month, a couple times a month, it's much. I have friends who smoke cigarettes, and aside from the health and other issues, it's just really expensive. Our society's decided that it's a sin to smoke cigarettes, that they put especially my state, Washington, they've put these huge taxes on them. So you'll spend a lot of money and not get as much out of it. But it was interesting. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think it's in most states as far as the cigarette tax.
Oh yeah, it's the same here. It's the sin tax, literally.
Yeah.
Whatever your vice is, whether it's booze, smokes, whatever it is, somebody is gonna put a tax on it somehow to capitalize on it, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always funny as people point out, if taxing cigarettes is meant to discourage smoking, what is an income tax meant to discourage?
Working.
So, but what's interesting, Rob, you were talking about the word no and being told no. And it's because for my area, for those of you who are not from or familiar with the Pacific Northwest and specifically Seattle culture, I didn't grow up specifically in Seattle, but I grew up in the metro area. And the culture is very much, no is a 4-letter word, even though it's not literally, but you get the point. You always say something other than no as a way of saying no, but saying no is, I don't know if that's changed because we've had so many Californians and other peoples coming into this.
So it's a passive no.
Right. Let's say somebody invites you to a party or invites you to an event or whatever, and you don't want to go because you simply are not interested in going. You don't say that. You don't say
You're fucking kidding me.
Right.
Really?
I'm not.
No.
Yeah, no, you can't. God. You say I'm busy, or I'm gonna. The best passive way is I'll have to let you know.
I have to check my calendar and get back.
And that to me, I mean, I get what you're saying, but that is such a passive aggressive bullshit way to do things that, when I hear people say that, my favorite one is they'll say, "Oh, not only let me look into that, but I'll try."
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Yoda said it best. Do or do not. There is no try. I'll try is you saying, I'm not going to do it actually, but I want the credit for it.
You're a Star Wars fan, and if you're going to reference Yoda, the master, you need to do it in his voice.
Do or do not. There is no try.
All right. Now that was pretty good.
I can do some good voice impersonations. I'm not bad.
So people have actually tried to, and it's not as though Seattleites are unfamiliar with or in denial about this fact. There's people who've been trying to figure out why that is exactly. But our society in the Pacific Northwest is very much against being direct. And I've seen this where there's people who are, say, from Michigan or Midwest, right? From Aaron Clarey's background.
His neck of the woods.
Yeah, he's a classic Midwesterner who's just direct and to the point on stuff.
Pump Handle, Iowa, wherever he's from.
And I have a friend who's from Michigan, and he's very civil. He's just very direct. So if somebody invites him to something, he just goes, I'm just not interested, or
I'm not doing that shit.
Well, they'll say, do you want to go see this movie? He goes, I really don't want to go see it. And that's it. He just says, no, thank you, or whatever. And for me, one of the reasons I really like him as a friend is because of that. He'll just say what's on his mind. Now, he doesn't say, people will confuse, I think, being direct with being open, and being blunt with being direct. Being blunt is where you're not being tactful. You can be direct but tactful.
Absolutely.
And simply say, I'm not really interested in doing that. But I don't know what it is with Seattle and the Pacific Northwest culture on that. That's one of the things I really don't like, because there's a lot of men who really can't handle what they call, or they either can't handle no or they can't handle rejection. I actually prefer people to just say what's on their mind and get it out there.
Right.
So that I'm not confused.
Oh, and you're not, you know where they're coming from and you're not wasting time.
Right. I mean, this causes absolute havoc, especially if you're a man who grows up thinking you say what you mean, then you mean what you say. And then you go into the dating world in the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
where you ask out a girl or you ask her to do something and she'll say anything other than no. And if any man was to come here and want to go dating or whatever, my advice to him would be, if she's not head over heels ready to go, 100% enthusiastic saying yes, it's a no. If she hesitates, if it's anything other than a yes, it's a no. Just that's the way it is. Don't argue with it. Don't whine about it. Don't complain about it. Don't go write a blog post about it, about how good you are about it. Don't do a pot. Just that's how it is. You have to understand what they're communicating. And if they're not interested in that, and if they also, well, there's other stuff. That's just the way that we communicate in this area. And I'm not a huge fan of it, but it is what it is. I have to also be understood by people over here. So I have a hard time. It's not that I don't want to say no to people. It's that I have to acknowledge that this is what's social etiquette over here. And unless I want to move to an area where we can talk as though we're in the military all the time and insult each other when we're just joking, right? I would love that.
Well, I gotta to use some poker terminology here for you, TJ. I'll see your yes and I'll raise you a hell yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay? That for me, I kind of live by the motto: it's either a hell yes or it's a fuck no. And so whenever because to me there is yes, and I think we're talking about the same thing, but I'm just, I guess, making myself very clear about it. That there's hell yes, and then there's yeah, but yes can be taken all kinds of ways. It's like you say, it's not necessarily enthusiastic, and so it's kind of a meh, maybe, or well, if I've got nothing better going on, I guess.
Right.
That yes doesn't necessarily mean yes. And so for me, it's very easy where I'll even ask people, like, is that a yes or is that a hell yes? Because anything other than a hell yes to me is a no. Right. That it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's just me. And so I've always been of the mind, because I've met people that you knew damn well from the word go that it was either a no. And so why are we fucking around with it? Right. Or on the other hand, it's hell yeah, that those are their exact words. And it's like, now that's what I want to hear. That's kind of how I if it's going to be all systems go for me, I have to hear hell yeah. Otherwise, what's the point?
Agreed.
Yeah. Right. And that's the same thing with men or just hanging out with friends is you want to get that's one of the frustrating things with trying to spend time with friends in this area is that people don't like committing to something because and this is, I don't know if it's the Pacific Northwest culture specifically, but I think it's
here too. It's right. In Salt Lake. I've lost friendships over it.
Right. Because people are always thinking, well, something else could do better. I understand through that what goes through a lot of women's minds when they're in a relationship or whatever, where they're thinking, is this really the best I can do? Or with men doing the same thing, because that's what happens when you're hanging out with people. But I mean, I'm not saying I've ever done that. I understand why people do what they're doing when they're flaking or they're not wanting to commit, because they're always thinking, well, if there's nothing else going on, I'll hang out with you. But if there's something else better, I want to keep my options open. I don't want to commit to you and then find out there's something else cool going on. And so that's where you really have to weed out people who are not enthusiastically saying, yes, I would love to do this. and they make it a priority by their actions. They say, I'm going to carve out this time, or I'm willing to drive over here, or I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I think that's what's going to end up happening in the future. Is social media today. Speaking of social media, Facebook had an aneurysm throughout the entire day.
I heard about that. What happened?
Yeah. I don't know. I just know that people are discovering what it's like to live without Facebook for a whole day for the first time in how many years.
So basically, you're saying is everyone was more productive?
Pretty much.
Gotcha.
I think
that shows how little I get on Facebook. I had no idea.
Yeah, I have to be on it for work reasons and other stuff to just keep track. Some people, it's the only way that they'll communicate. They don't communicate through phones, email, whatever. But social media has really, I think, destabilized social networking, actually, ironically enough. And so I think at some point people are going to end up saying, okay, if we're really going to be socially interacting, you need to put skin in the game. And it reminds me of that article or that podcast that Quintus Curtius did on his site, where he was talking about that club that Dr. Johnson started in old age in London. And one of the requirements of the club is that you had to pay a monthly or annual membership due. So you had to start out, it weeded out all the people who just were, saying that they were talking. And now you separate them from the people who actually put their money where their mouth is. They say, yes, I want to be a part of this club and I care so much about it, I'm willing to put in this amount of money. And I think that that's a way to figure out if you're hanging out with people who are serious about doing stuff together, if they have to spend money in order to just associate with you. In my humble opinion, I think that we're really going to see the rise of social clubs. I don't know what they're going to look like, but the whole concept of them, I think, are going to come back.
That's if you look at history, that stuff is we're
cyclical as fuck.
Cyclical, yeah. As we're reading the Age of the Bachelor, you'll see that it's in there. Did you pick that up yet, DJ?
No, I need to read that.
What?
I'm doing.
You're busy.
TJ, you don't need to go on the defense. I'm just fucking with you.
I know.
You're busy growing your beard out.
That's right. I'm busy buying pipes and growing your beard.
I'm growing the beard out. I'm reading the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn. I'm doing wildfire training because I'm a volunteer firefighter in my area.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to be. And then I'm doing that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I'll have to pick it up and read it because I'm really interested. I was doing a little bit of research on colonial America and was really fascinated by and we've talked about this before, so we're not going to dwell on it too much, but the almost complete absence of bachelors in, say, Massachusetts Bay Colony and the Plymouth Colony. It was around 98% of people married. I mean, it was I think it's real. People really have to think about how different and how separate the world we're living in today is from 400 years ago. And I know that's a shock, but I'm thinking
all I'm thinking, and granted, I've only gotten so far into the Age of the Bachelor, but I was actually surprised to find that, with the exception of the penalties, I guess, the restrictions on bachelors, that number one, that there was a lot of bachelors and a lot of single women during like the 1700s into the 1800s, all that. It was just that the bachelor or the bachelorette had a lot more restrictions on where they could go and what they could do, versus today, where we're still seeing, at least according to the book, people back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they were getting married much later, like late 20s, that type of thing, which that's the norm now. And of course, there's I guess the general society that is wringing their hands going, oh noes, we're having a population dwindling, people are not having kids or they're having them much later. And yet that was going on over 100 years ago.
Right.
The only real difference now is there's not as many penalties, I guess, that, it's not like, oh, you're a single guy, so you have to live over in this section of town and you can only live in these particular houses that are geared specifically for bachelors or for single people. Today it's, you can live wherever the fuck you want. Right. But I find it fascinating because I honestly, I always thought I was kind of a history buff. Apparently I wasn't that much of one to read all this. And I'm just like, holy shit. It's kind of like today, with the exception of it's a little more acceptable, I guess, compared to maybe in the past. But that's only my experience so far, and it's very limited. So
I think with back then, they were maybe delaying marriage, but they were for different reasons. I think that had back then. They say economic today. Yeah, they can't afford a McMansion and 5 cars, and they want to have one kid and put them in a $50,000 a year private school or some nonsense. And they also have student loans or whatever. Now, maybe it might have been the same thing where they arrived, because I can't remember what it was, but it was a significant percentage of people who arrived in the colonies were indentured servants. So they were brought over, and then you would work, and then you would be free after a period of time. So that might have been delaying it as well. But I think at some point they got married and ended up having kids. I think the other thing is they didn't feel the need to. They were settlers, or they were people coming into a new area, but they didn't say, "Oh, we need to bring in more people. We need to bring in more cheap labor to keep the
more economic base."
Right, yeah. Exactly. It was a different economy where you could afford to have a population actually drop a little bit, which is what happened. I was just reading about the King Philip's War, which I really didn't read much about in history, but I was fascinated by, because according to what I was reading, that really was one of the principal causes of the core. Most people don't even know about the King Philip's War, which was in the 1600s, but it was fought by the colonists in America without almost any assistance or help or aid from England. And they ended up winning it, but it was very devastating to the colonies in terms of population drop. But it formed the American identity separate from England. So this collective historical experience that they went through formed that, but yet most Americans don't even know about that. But if that war hadn't happened, Americans might not have had the same sense of separate identity from England if stuff doesn't happen. But yeah, that's I know we've gotten a little off tangent on the Bachelor thing, but
no,
yeah.
That's all right. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that is interesting to look at history and say, in some ways things are a lot different, but in a lot of ways things have not changed at all. It's the same old.
Yeah, and as Rob and I are pointing out, all these things seem to be cyclical, unless you read a little bit of history, and you have to go back about anywhere between 50 to 100 years, and you read about these things. Wait a minute, this sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, we're going through this shit again. So
right. No, somebody was reading about the Roman Empire and was posting screenshots of the book on Twitter and said, "Tell me that this guy is not talking about the United States of America right now." He was talking. Yeah. The author is describing and this is somebody who was living during the late Roman era, and he's saying what went wrong. Here's all the things that are wrong in the society. You had the debasing of the current. Oh, if you heard that, that was a huge piece of ice that just fell off my roof.
They're coming. Yeah.
Exactly. It's now 50. It went from being some insignificant temperature, 3-5 degrees, and now it's up to 50. So all the ice is melting. Hopefully no permanent damage, but now I know what I'll be doing this weekend.
Clearing the ice off your roof.
That, or I'm going to just get lazy and go on a 10-mile hike out in the middle of the wilderness. And
I wouldn't call that lazy.
Avoiding work.
avoiding domestic chores, but I wouldn't say it's lazy.
Yeah.
So Rob, what are you smoking?
I'm doing my Perdomo Habano Maduro.
Okay.
What the flavor of tonight is.
Gotcha.
And it's a good one. It's smooth. It's It's not super strong. It's definitely not as strong as my Oliva Series 5 that I like a little better. That one's a little more robust.
Mm-hmm.
But this is still a very, very good cigar.
Okay.
So I recommend for all you out there that are either cigar aficionados, or if you're considering getting into it to try it out for the fuck of it or whatever, pick one up. Pick up a Perdomo. They're good. But really, spend about $2 more and pick up an Oliva Series 5. You'll know where the money went. This has been the best thing I've found, short of an actual Cuban cigar. So,
oh wow,
yeah.
Is that a modest price range, or is that?
It's about $20-$25.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on what you call modest. To me, I won't buy anything under $20 because you get what you pay for.
Correct.
And so to me, the most I've ever spent on a cigar myself was for a, oh Christ, what was it now? Oh shit, it wasn't. No. Oh fuck, of course it went right out of my head. But I spent $35 on a cigar one time that you knew where the money went.
There's a pussy running behind you.
Oh yeah, Kabuki.
Okay.
No, she ain't having none of it.
She's like, nope, you're smoking a cigar. I want no part.
Yeah, she's not a big fan of the cigars.
Gotcha.
Hey, she doesn't like it. There's the door.
Right? I mean, fucking cats, I get them. And they're supposed to be workers, It's like, I don't expect them. They're house cats. They don't go outside. So I'm not expecting them to kill mice or birds or nothing. But they can kill some fucking spiders, you'd think. And once in a while they earn their paycheck, but for the most part, they're a couple of lazy bastards. And so, yeah, they don't do shit.
There's the laziness that you were talking about. When I adopted Mowgli, I had actually gone to the shelter for a different reason. And when you're there, you kind of feel bad. It's tugging at your heartstrings. You hear the meowing, and you hear the dogs barking, and you're like,
yeah, that's why I can't go there too often.
Yeah, so I thought to myself, you know what? I could use a writing buddy. A dog in an apartment is cruel. Right. A dog needs to be out and run and to be in a yard. So if I ever do the house thing, then a dog, I would definitely get a dog. A dog and a sidecar for my motorcycle. So yeah, with the goggles and the white scarf, that will happen. Will happen. So I figured, okay, in the past I've had allergy problems before. So I'm like, all right, let me go into the cat room. I go into the pussy room, rub my face into some fur, and then see if I, start sneezing, coughing. And I didn't. It's like, okay, well, which one should I pick? So there was one guy there, Mowgli. He had been there for 9 months. Nobody wanted him. He was very standoffish. He would bite. His previous owner had to go into assisted living, and he or she couldn't take cats. So, like, you know what? I'll take him. He'll leave me alone. I can do my writing. I'll give him a home, and I'll be good. No, it was a complete lie. He's rubbing on me, sitting in my lap, meowing, talking, and just completely bugging the hell out of me. So his CV, his description, and his adoption papers were completely wrong. So he's the complete opposite. But yeah,
fortunately for me, Reese is owned by someone else, so I just get to go take him out for hikes and walks, and take him to the brewery, and have people come over and compliment me on how awesome my dog is.
And yeah.
So then, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, Reese doesn't stay with you all the time.
No, I only, so his owner, my neighbor, lives across the street. So I just go over there and just whenever I want to go take him for a walk. But I went to the Humane Society in my neck of the woods and just said, guys, what's the brass tacks on owning a dog? What do I got to do? Because I grew up in a cul-de-sac with people who had dogs that were completely inappropriate to have in suburbia. You had hunting dogs, you had these big dogs that needed tons of exercise. I know people who have huskies who live in apartments or condos, It's to me, if you're not going to take care of the animal, you don't do it. Right.
Right.
It's nice.
Exactly.
Pets are almost like cabins, boats, and all these other things. You rent them or you borrow them from a friend. You don't go and actually get one yourself unless it's a big deal. So they said you got to have I was interested in getting a husky at the time, and they said you got to get a fence. It's a 24-hour job. Whenever you go anywhere, you got to leave it with somebody.
High energy.
Yeah, that's
high energy.
Very high energy dog.
And I just said I looked at the husky that was there, and I just decided I'm not going to be able to take care of it the way it should be, and it would be cruel for me to adopt this dog, so I'm not going to do that. And fortunately, I talked to my neighbor that next week, and she mentioned her dog, and she was lamenting how she's an older woman, how he doesn't really get out much because she's not able. He's 8 years old, but he has the energy of a pup. So he'll go on these hikes with me and whatever, and he'll be dragging me practically.
That's awesome.
That was funny. So I was talking about this dog all through on my podcast, and then Aaron Clarey, our buddy, comes over last year to hang out with me, and he's excited to see this dog and see what it will do. That was the day the dog just decided to be lackadaisical and
just sleep.
Dog's like, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. And so Aaron's running down this ridge that we were going up, and he's looking back at this dog where I'm having to practically shove it down the trail. I don't know what it was exactly, but he's just like, "What dog? Who is this? Is this the dog you've been talking up on your podcast the whole time?" And then of course Aaron goes, and I go take Reese for a walk as soon as he leaves.
It's like the Warner Brothers frog. It's not going to sing in front of strangers.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
Hello,
the Warner
baby.
Brothers.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
If you abuse me, then you will lose me.
That's baby, my heart's on fire.
Sing it, Rob.
Yeah, that's all I know of it. That's it.
Okay. Well, when we do the music episode next week, TJ can break that out because I guarantee he has that on a 45 or something.
You know, I don't have that specific song.
Oh, shit.
But I do have, we'll talk about it that week, but I've got a lot of old time original recordings of Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller, who
nice.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay, Glenn Miller. Famous World War II era musician, band leader, Moonlight Serenade, one of the best songs ever written. He died in a plane accident on his way to Europe during the war, and they finally, I think, found his plane that crashed. But I have live recordings of his performances. One of them on radio, and one of them includes an ad for when I think it was Pinocchio came out. So it was the same year Pinocchio came out, that Disney film, and they have that on the ads. But all these original recordings of stuff they were doing on the radio, I love that era, that big band era.
Music. And big band jazz.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. We lost our train of thought. We completely derail with the "Hello, my baby" with the Warner Brothers. Aaron being completely.
Aaron's just like, what dog is this? It's just the same dog you've been talking about this whole time. I didn't know what to say to him. And then of course the dog starts dragging me across the freaking highway when we were going for a walk the other time. I was like, not a day later, it was whatever. So I don't know. He must have had something in his foot or just was confused. Maybe Aaron intimidated the dog with his height, just so tall and imposing.
Yeah, because Aaron is so fucking tall. Well, I can't, I can't really talk shit. He's taller than me. So, but yeah, he always makes that one come out.
Yeah, he does. He does. He's quick to mention that. That's really funny.
I'm short. I'm only 5'9" or something.
He's 5'9". That's
and I'm sitting there thinking, dude, that's average on the bell curve. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Aaron. Fuck you.
Gee, what would it be like to be 5'9", you fucker? Wow, cry me a river, asshole.
Seriously. Honestly.
I wish he was here right now because I'd say it to him.
Well, we'll get him. He'll be back on.
Hey,
again.
We are not passive aggressive like the Pacific Northwesterners. If we don't like somebody, we say it to their face.
That's right.
That's right.
Or we'll say it where it's recorded and he can watch it later and go, well, that's how he really feels. Yes, that's how I really feel. Fuck you, Aaron. Fuck you and you're 5'9".
When I rip the audio, I'll just pull out this little section.
Yeah, and send it right to him. Send it right to him. Aaron, fuck you and your 5'9" bullshit.
Yeah, we'll make a ringtone so when you call him or text him, that goes off.
Hey, there we go. Dude, seriously, if you do that, I will change my ringtone to that.
All right. I'll make you a
I will fucking do it, and then I will play it on my phone and on the next show just so that I can show you that there it is.
There you go. Say, Aaron, do me a favor.
Call me. Yeah,
call me. Just text me right now.
So I could be like, fuck you and you're 5'9".
There you go. So this is what geeks talk about when they're online and they're broadcasting live, making ringtones of curses.
To good friends.
Exactly.
Hey, we only do this for friends. We don't do this for people we don't like.
That is true. That is true. Well, and you always have your fucking coffee.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, it's like I've tried to explain to some women in the past and explain to other guys, and I know I've mentioned it in past episodes, but guys, when they like each other, they talk a lot of shit.
Oh, yeah.
When you don't actually like them, you never bring them up.
No, you're very serious. You're not joking.
Yeah, and they're like, and someone goes, oh, what do you think of so-and-so? Yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, him? Whatever.
Yeah, that's I mean, even going back to childhood, we made fun of each other, we called each other names, and that was just how you honestly showed affection and that male bonding.
Right.
But and nicknames. We made nicknames for each other.
Yeah.
Women don't make nicknames for each other. They never.
Oh, yeah. That's what's really they do and they don't. Well, we're gonna get a little philosophical, so everybody strap your seatbelts in.
Take up. Well, hang on. Before you do that, before you do that, you have to push up imaginary glasses, and then you have to take a puff from your pipe.
Where the heck's my glasses?
Yeah, get your glasses in.
Yeah, get your fucking glasses, will you?
And you need a fucking sweater vest.
Well, Jesus Christ, if we're gonna do that, we'll just call it Mr. TJ's neighborhood.
There you go.
Change his shoes and hi neighbor, welcome to my neighborhood.
That's all right. There you go.
Let's get philosophical now.
All right.
Okay, I cannot wear those. I got contact.
I can't see.
The bullshit's gonna get deep now. I can already feel it. Get your fucking hip waders out.
Oh god! Yeah, everyone who's watching, get ready. You may want get ready.
Yeah, get ready because a professional bullshitter is about to start talking.
Get your drink. All right, here we go. All right, TJ, hit us with it.
This is so you were talking about how women don't give each other nicknames. I think they do, but it's not the same way because they'll shorten. They'll give it, but it's a shortening of the same name. Meaning, instead of Elizabeth, they'll just say Liz.
Oh, okay.
So no, that doesn't.
I know what I'm saying. Here, hang on. What was that? Do that again.
There's our fucking ringtone.
It's this big.
So I guess my point is it's not a nickname, but it's not the same thing where they'll have some sort of term, but it's not done in the same manner where
I'll give you for example. Hang on. You know that thing you just did now? We would call you fucking mumbles. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
TJ Mumbles.
I have
what
a
up,
nickname.
Mumbler?
So my first nickname, it's not a bad one. It's just I remember when I was a kid, I was always running around the recess playground, going after kids who were
shorter than you.
Not shorter than me, but just they were causing trouble. So I would go around, saying
you're policing them.
Oh, fuck! No, so you were Captain Avenger, or what?
No. I was. But no, that's how I got my nickname. One of several nicknames, but the thing is with guys when they give each other nicknames, Do you guys ever see this? The
hey,
TV
before you jump off there, what was the fucking nickname? Get it out there. I want to know. I'm sitting on pins and needles here. God damn it!
Seriously, and I think the viewers, the people watching, want to know this. This is serious
so
shit.
Fucking before you go off into the whole story, give us the fucking nickname.
Get out of the weeds. Get out of the philosophical weeds.
So the older kids on the playground called me Ranger T. No joke. That's what they called me.
Ranger T.
Okay. So, but if you watch the
did you have a badge?
No, but that was kind of the joke.
We need to get him a badge.
Oh God.
There you go. Ranger T.
I don't know if I should have said that.
The village by the sea, you're getting a badge.
That's right.
Yep. Oh, you're getting a badge, and it's gonna have a T on it somewhere. I'll fucking make it happen.
I better not tell. Yeah. Anyways.
You need to tell us even more. Come on, bring out the next one.
I'll give you mine. But go ahead, continue.
So if you watch the miniseries The Pacific, there was that one scene where they've been on Guadalcanal. I think it's the second episode or the first episode, but they've been on Guadalcanal for a while, and without a lot of good food, they managed to raid this food depot or whatever. And the one guy, Lecky, grabs the can of peaches and he's eating them way too fast, right? His body can't process that much so quickly, so he starts puking. And one of the guys says, "Your nickname's Peaches now, right?" That's where they get the nicknames. But I just don't think that that's how girls give each other nicknames.
No, that's the point. They don't.
Right, and so going back to what I was originally going to say is that that's one of the things that really it makes things ambiguous and unclear and cloudy is having gender integration, especially starting at certain ages where men or young boys are trying to interact in a masculine way, and it's being policed, controlled, and restricted.
Well, they're told, they're basically told not to do that.
Right. And so if young boys I remember as a young boy in a lot of circumstances where we'd be giving each other guff, and the moms would be.
Did you say guff?
Jesus, Governor, I do say we're having a little bit of guff going on here. Are you 30 or are you 80, TJ? Which one is it, man?
TJ's got an old soul.
Shit, fuck, I'd say. Oh my God,
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
No, it's not bad at all. I just haven't heard that term since
it's been a while,
a long time.
We should bring those back. We have to bring guff, nifty, spiffy,
neat.
Okay, you guys got to understand. You're Gen Xers. I got to deal with the millennial generation. I have to almost separate myself, and I've renounced that identity, right?
That's true. That must be difficult because you have sort of like a different generational speak and mindset. So you have to you have to like totally code switch.
Just millennials and most millennials and myself, we have nothing in common in terms of what we're interested in. There's some things that we might, just because we went through it at the same period, whatever, the same music was going on, the same type of stuff was going on. But my mindset, the stuff that I value, the stuff that I like, the stuff that I'm interested in, the stuff I like to talk about, the way I perceive things is so far removed. I don't really, when people say I'm a millennial, what does that mean? It means I was born on a certain date. Well, that's an accident of birth. That's not an identity. So for me to, here's an example. We'll go a little bit into geek stuff. Most millennials are huge into having Netflix, and they're big into having that TV, the cable subscription, and they're really big on to having their 60-inch mounted TV on their wall. That's a big deal, right? And they don't want anything else in their house. They just want that big mounted TV in their living room. Whereas I've got the 1990 entertainment center with the box TV and the VCR, and
you got that old console TV from the 50s that has like a fucking bar that rotates on the top.
Well, not that.
Well, no, but his TV probably weighs 175 fucking pounds, though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so, because I just hate that whole idea that the TV is the most important thing in the room. There's other stuff. I got my fireplace. I've got I like the idea of the living room being an area where you sit and chat with people. You have a drink, you have a smoke, you enjoy the fire, and the TV is just part of the room. Whereas in most millennial,
it's the focus.
The TV is the only thing, because you don't want to talk to each other, because then you might actually start talking about stuff like, oh, I don't know, was it smart for us to get into debt? Everything we were taught in school, was all that just nonsense, and all the stuff that we assumed to be true, is that really real? You start having these deep conversations, and that makes things awkward. That's for example, my generation, doing things that make people feel awkward is a big no-no. You're not allowed to make anyone feel awkward. That's awkward, and that's wrong. Whereas I'm like, I walk into a room and I like to see the giant elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge, and I just like to point out and say, there's a giant elephant in this room, in case none of you were noticing. I want to make sure that you all acknowledge that elephant right in the room.
Yeah.
So
what you're saying is you want to be Captain Obvious then?
No, it's no. Captain
Another
Obvious.
nickname. Another nickname.
No, Captain Obvious points out something that everybody knows. Whereas the elephant in the room is something that everybody's trying to avoid acknowledging, and I like to force them to say, "Oh, no, this is going on," and I just
so you're that asshole. Okay. No, I can dig that asshole. That's all right.
Well, I can't deal with going into a place where people say stuff, or there's just something going on, and you at first I used to wonder, am I the only one who's noticing what's going on here? And then and all that. But anyways, going back to what I was originally talking about, which was guys giving each other crap, not guff. They're giving each other crap, and
say it like it is. They're giving each other shit. There's a difference even between crap.
You're busting balls.
Exactly. Thank you. They're busting each other's fucking balls. Hey, I'm busting your fucking balls. Get over it.
Exactly. And that's how you know the person respects and likes you.
Right. So, but we're talking about 10-year-olds. We're not talking about 30-years, right?
Well,
I was saying busting your fucking balls when I was 10, but maybe that was my upbringing.
It's really, we are almost hardwired for that.
Right.
And thank God. I like that.
Right. And my point is that boys will do that, and women, especially moms and women who are female teachers, whatever, they're going to interpret that from a feminine perspective, and they're right, and that's harmful because it doesn't allow men.
Well, hang on. It's harmful if you try to police it. You can still feel some type of way about it, but keep your fucking mouth shut.
Right, but how can I put it? There's this policing that's going on. And
now it's sanctioned.
It's sanctioned, but I would also say that boys have to navigate a female-centric or a feminine environment, especially in the public education system, but also now increasingly elsewhere in society as young boys. And so they don't have. They're playing by a different set of rules of what they normally would be allowed to be. And so that makes it difficult for them to understand how they're different from the girls in terms of how giving each other nicknames, for example, is a male thing. But the thing is, because the girls and the boys aren't separate, we really don't know what girls would do, or at least correct me if I'm wrong, what they would do differently. Would they give each other nicknames if there weren't boys in the room or in the environment? Or are they just, you know what I mean? Boys are having their behavior controlled. In what ways are girls having their behavior controlled as well? Because they can't come out and say, because that's why girls would always go to the bathroom during a dance or during a whatever, a double date or whatever, would be to go talk about what they want to say without saying it in front of the guys. Is that the same case? I guess, to what extent are girls discreet about the way that they interact? Because there's this they like to maintain this mystique or this sense of mystery about the way of women, so that men will never fully understand it, that kind of thing. But does that occur when they're younger? Are they aware of that? Are they conscientious about not speaking their minds fully?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So that was originally.
We'd have to bring a woman on the panel and get her 2 cents to find out for sure.
There you go. Yeah. Oh yeah, nicknames. When I was in Scouts, one of my first nicknames was Skeeter.
Skeeter,
yeah, because at the time I hadn't had a growth spurt yet. I think I may have been I had just started Scouts or I was in Cub Scouts. I forget, but Skeeter.
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 Like from did you ever watch Doug? That Nickelodeon. Oh, there's this Nickelodeon cartoon called Doug. With one of his best friends was called Skeeter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Skeeter.
Yeah. Right. How about you, Rob?
Well, God, I only had 2, and I still get called both of them quite frequently. And one was dickhead, and the other one was asshole. And it's just
gee, man. Rob. I wonder
why.
As a 10-year-old, you were called dickhead.
Yes, I actually was. I had friends that's what they called me. They'd be like, "Hey, dickhead," and I got used to it. They'd be like, "What? What do you want?" You know. And as I got a little bit older, it morphed into asshole. And I think
that's all of our nicknames now. It's asshole.
Well, yes.
Now, when I was in my fraternity in college, there was, I think. No, I was just one, but there was one girl.
You were in a fraternity?
I was the VP.
So were you wearing like the Izod shirt with the scarf or something? And because I'm envisioning you with
the sweater wrapped around
with the fucking tennis racket, you know? And what kind of fraternity was this?
You got to know Washington. You have to know Washington culture to understand. So I went to Eastern Washington University, which was so there's these. I'll keep it short. UW is for the kids who get really good grades or their daddy makes a lot of money, right?
Trust funds.
Wazoo, Washington State University, the Cougars. That's the party school. That's where you go outside a house and the entire lawn. And I do mean every square inch of that lawn is covered with beer bottles.
Okay. So it's like Animal House or the one frat house on Revenge of the Nerds. Okay.
Right.
So which school did you go to?
I went to Eastern, which was the Eagles. And Eastern was for, you weren't the smartest, you weren't rich, and you had to actually work to pay your own bills.
So you wore flannel.
No, a lot of guys did. I didn't at the time, but no, it wasn't a party school because there was partying going on, but it wasn't like you would see at Wazoo.
It was discreet partying.
It was discreet. It was discreet partying. Yeah.
Everybody whispered.
Well, it was It was parties where you had Bush Light because that's all the guys. I mean. And I look back on it fondly in the sense that I was going to school with people who actually had to pay for their schooling. These were not trust fund babies. These were not kids who...
A little more serious.
Well, they also didn't think they were better than anybody else.
There was no entitlement.
Right.
Right.
So what was your outfit?
So I very rarely bought clothes brand new. I usually just had either clothes that friends gave me or hand-me-downs or stuff I got for Christmas. I just wore a sweatshirt, really, or a jacket or a rain jacket. You
kind of looked more like a
homeless person.
Yeah. Also, you were a bum without any kind of legal tender or a job. You're a fucking bum. What line did that come from, Peanut Gallery? Come on. You guys should know that one. Yeah. I know that one. Yeah, without legal tender or gainful employment, something along those lines, you're a bum, a fucking bum. Who am I quoting and what movie is it from? Come on, guys.
Give us what's the decade?
The 90s.
Okay.
Big names, both the two. Well, there was a whole fuckload of A-listers in it.
Was that one of the Lethal Weapon movies?
No. Nope. You're kind of in the right vein, but no.
Okay.
And if I say any of the names of the actors or the director, Everyone will get it. They'll have to, unless they've been, TJ living up on a mountain somewhere. And
all right, come on. All right, come on, people in the
Mrs.
chat.
Doubtfire.
Come on, guys. No, it's not Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. Where the fuck did that come from?
Where the hell did you come up with that one? I don't recall them saying "fuck" in it.
That's true. Yeah,
I haven't watched
a kids show.
Yeah, this is not a kids show. In fact, the word "fuck" was said a lot in this film.
All right, everyone out there in the chat,
come on, chatters. You guys.
Does anyone have any idea what the hell Rob is talking about?
Come on, I'm quoting a line there.
This is some interaction going here.
Come on here. You guys hurry up and look it up. Come on, Google it or something.
Repeat the. No, I don't Google it. Repeat the quote.
It was, without a job or legal tender, that's all you're going to be is a fucking bum.
Fight Club?
No. Not a bad guess, though. Not a bad guess. But no, it was not Fight Club.
Like Goodfellas or something like that?
Nope, wasn't Goodfellas. It was in a crime genre.
Crime genre, okay.
But it's not Goodfellas. It's not a mafia film per se.
All right, we're getting close.
Oh, Reservoir Dogs.
Ooh, real fucking close. But no,
Metal Drummer wants to know if it's the movie with Robert De Niro. Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction it is.
There you go. And that's the Ralstonian
Robert
report.
De Niro was not in Pulp Fiction, though.
No, he was just asking if it was a movie with Robert De Niro.
Yeah, no, Robert De Niro wasn't in this one. It is Pulp Fiction, though. John Travolta said it to Samuel Jackson after a big shootout scene, and they were sitting around, and Samuel Jackson said something about, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to walk the earth.
Oh, okay.
And that's when John Travolta said, so you're going to be a bum. I'll just
shot Marvin in the face.
Yeah, exactly. After they shot Marvin in the face. But it was them saying, I'll just be Jules. And he goes, no, without legal tender or a job, you're going to be a fucking bum.
So John Travolta said that line.
Yes, he did.
The Ralstonian report. Good job, sir.
Yep, good job. You get the gold star.
TJ's gonna send you a prize.
Yeah, right. What that surprise is, it's a mystery gift.
It's probably his tennis racket. It's gonna gold plate it with your name on it.
Or his Izod pullover, his what do you call them fucking things? Polo shirt. That's it.
Oh yeah. I did polo shirts for a while, but I don't do them that much.
I could see in a polo shirt. TJ, on the other hand, I can't see in a polo shirt.
No, yeah. I was never, because I grew up in a middle class household where we didn't. I mean, my first car was in 1994 Buick Century. So, and before that, it was a beat up van. So, and I also got hand-me-down clothes from.
Hand-me-down cars, hand-me-down clothes.
No, it's just. I'm not.
Good.
I'm not
That's
it's good. Because I hear all these people complaining about what they got. These kids, including millennials. And this is where I really don't identify with my generation. Is they talk about the clothes that you got to buy it from here, or you got to wear this, whatever. And I'm not saying you shouldn't dress well. I'm definitely interested in dressing appropriately and for my age. But this idea that clothing is something almost the amount of money that people I know spend on clothes is absolutely appalling for me. Right? You're going to spend that much. I don't know. That's where but I also have never tried to dress above my class, I guess. Not that I'm obsessing over it, but I don't want to walk in like these people I know who they'll dress very nicely, even though they don't make a lot of money, but that's what they put all their money into is their clothes and their car, right? They've got a leased car and it's a really tacky thing that people from, certain people do that. I got to be careful.
It's all right. We get the gist of what you're saying.
Right. And so I think also after you watch Carlton and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you can't.
Wow.
You can't ever wear the polo shirt.
Or the ugly Christmas sweater. Shit, that's funny.
No. I remember I watched the first episode and he just walks in there and he's got the sweater tied around him.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just thinking, why don't you just put the thing on? I don't get the whole
I never really understood that either.
And it reminds me of that guy from Good Will Hunting who's arguing with Ben Affleck about
in the bar. Yeah.
He's got the preppy sweater, and he's got the face that just looks like it needs to be punched.
Oh yeah, man, he needed to be punched in the fucking throat.
Yeah. So
cool.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't wear any of that stuff. I'm better off wearing a jacket or work clothes or something like that.
That makes sense. And then at that point, it becomes a bit of a uniform, and not for anything. You know what you're going to wear the next day.
Right.
Yeah. So when you're just wearing like black T-shirts and jeans and nice shoes, you're like, oh, okay, there you go. I know what I'm wearing. Keep it simple.
Right. Well, now I live in a rural area, and I've always lived in a middle class area. Now it's a rural area. There's money here, but not in my neighborhood. But I'm not going to show up to, and I also don't have a workplace to show up to anymore. Now I can go to a bar and do my work. I'm not going to show up there wearing a suit.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're working essentially from your laptop wherever you wish, wherever there's Wi-Fi. Now, do you prefer to do that, or do you mix it up? Like you'll be at home for a little bit, then you'll go out.
Yeah. I did not have internet at my house until late last year. I was using mobile data to do early morning work off my cell phone internet, and then I would go into town. I would go to these different places that had internet, that kind of stuff. Problem is, I can't watch videos, so a lot of it is watching stuff that's meetings that are being recorded live, and then they'd be downloadable later, and I couldn't really do that on my phone or with my computer. So I finally got that. But yeah, I would go do the rounds, and it was expensive at the time because you can't just go into an area, a restaurant or whatever, and unless you want to be a bum and not order anything.
Yeah, you have to sit there and keep the coffee coming and have a meal. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I don't like. Oh, what, Rob?
Just when you said a bum, I was just like, yeah, that's all you'll ever be, a fucking bum.
Yeah, so I go in, and but the thing is, I like going into places now because one, there's not a lot of business. This is a tourist town, so this is the downtime, so I can go in there and order some stuff, and there's some perks. They give you free stuff, or I get to have a tavern all to myself to work from, a really nice, looks like something out of Bavarian area. So hard to beat that.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And is that something you prefer than working at home?
I do like working from home because if I'm hungry, I don't have to pay $20 to eat something that costs $3 at my house.
Well, yeah, there's that. That's true.
I can make myself you go to and this is just the reality of eating out. I was talking about this on my podcast. You go have a tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich, and you've just paid $15 plus tip and whatever. Whereas I go do it in my house, it's 75 cents.
This is true. There's something to be said for shopping for yourself once a week and parceling that out.
Yeah. I really had to stop eating out because I just couldn't justify it. I can go get a pound of bacon and eggs and make my own hash browns with potatoes.
You just fill your freezer with meat and you're good.
Right.
Absolutely. Now you were talking about a typewriter.
Yeah, I can pull it out. I just arrived home, so let me 1 second. Let me go grab it really quick.
All right. So I'm flying solo here for a few minutes. Oh, well, since it's now the 1 hour mark and those guys are busy, I just want to take a moment. I was drinking coffee. I've finished it. I will probably get up in a moment and refill this mug. I want to direct your attention to this. You may have already heard of this or read about it. If you haven't, we're going to do the commercial again. This is Legends of Tabletop. This is another site that I run with a good friend of mine and brother from another mother, John Haremza. And our site is called Legends of Tabletop. It's actual play, role-playing games. We do game reviews, interviews. Check it out. Head over there, legendsoftabletop.com. We have our own coffee, and this is called Legendary Brew. It's a medium roast. I get the whole bean. I like to grind that myself and use a French press. Best way to do it. And we have a promo code, Legends10. So if you go to the website, you'll see the link for our sponsors, and you click on that, and you click on the link for the coffee. If you use promo code Legends10, you'll get 10% off, and there's always free shipping. This is delicious. It comes in a resealable bag. You smell, oh, banging the microphone. Smell this. It's still fresh, and I've had this for, I want to say about 2 months, maybe a little less. And I have a few more bags on the way. So go check that out. Check out the YouTube. Go to Legends of Tabletop YouTube. Also go to Twitter, at Legends of Tabletop. Follow us there. Check us out, and let us know what you think. So that's
while we're doing the PSA for your coffee there. Also, guys, if you're watching this and this is your first time, like the video.
Oh yes, thank you.
Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We got to promote that too.
I always forget that. Thank you. You're gonna be the
official.
You're gonna like, share, subscribe guy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe.
This arrived a few days ago.
Oh, nice.
It's George Bruno's The Vortex Method T-shirt.
Hell yeah!
No, I mean, some people are going, "Oh, the Vortex Method." What's just? It's just fun. It's just fun. It's funny.
I just love how he starts out every single video with just explaining.
He's stirring and one of the best ones was when he was doing it, and the ends of the chopsticks were on fire, and he pretended like it was not. He's stirring the coffee with chopsticks on fire.
Right.
So let's put that over there.
So,
thank you for listening to that. That was our commercial, and that was Rob's. Like, share, and subscribe. Please do so if you have not done already. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. It doesn't matter. We want everybody.
Yep. Tell every motherfucker out there.
That's right.
When you positively have to have every motherfucker in the room, except no imitations.
That's right. Speaking of no imitations, what do you have here, TJ?
So I get a call from my brother. He was working a job in college where they would be moving stuff around. So it was a moving company. Gives me a call and he goes, "Do you want a typewriter?" I said, "Sure." And he apparently found this in the back where they were getting rid of stuff from this house that had been, I think it was an estate or whatever it was, but they were essentially taking stuff, and the people said that they didn't want this. And so I hadn't seen it, and I opened it up, and this is what came out. So this case is.
I have a nerd boner right now. That's great.
And so this typewriter is attached to the case. So you have to take these right here, and then it comes out.
That's completely mobile. I love it.
Yeah. So this was back when you want a typewriter to be mobile, as opposed to that huge thing back there, which you probably can't see because of the camera.
Yeah.
But this one right here, I also got.
Is that a Royal? The one in the back?
It's a Remington. This one's a Royal, and this is the one I actually used when I was talking about how I wrote a Christmas letter on to relatives. Great. This is the one. So the ink ribbons still work. It even has where you get the supplies from Seattle. I don't know if they're still in business. I've ordered stuff online, but everything still works. So if you look here, I don't know how.
Put in a piece of paper and rack out a few keys.
Yeah,
I want to hear this thing.
Punch the keys.
1 second.
What movie is that from?
Oh, Finding Forrester. Easy.
Oh, come on. We had to do that. Oh, you ruined it.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. No, that's okay.
1 second. Let me go grab some paper.
Cool. I was at there's a bookshop I go to not too far from here, and there's an antique store as well. And every once in a while, I'll go in and see what they have as far as typewriters. And there was one there for $80. I was thinking about buying it. This may motivate me enough to do so. All right, let's hear this.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I have no idea what else to say.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think it was Cormac McCarthy he wrote all of his novels on typewriters, And the only maintenance he did is he would take it to the gas station and just use the air blower to blow out the dust. Okay. So, like I said, this thing I believe is from 1935 or 6, and it is worth hundreds of dollars. So,
oh wow,
I still owe my brother lifetime supply of beer.
I'll say that's great. And and that's when you said you wrote the letter on.
Yes, this one. There's another one that I have that also works. That is a noiseless. They call it a noiseless typewriter. It's a Remington 1924.
Really? Oh, yeah. Shit.
That one, I have no idea. I've never used it. My brother also gave that one to me. And but the only downside to this one is it's so light is that it will actually move around when you're typing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't quite know, because the back is heavy, but the front is pretty it doesn't have as much weight. All the weight's in the back.
Gotcha.
But one of the things that a typewriter is still useful for is it teaches you to spell correctly, because there's no spell check. It's very laborious to go correct a mistake that you have on a typewriter, because you got to go switch it to white ink if you have it. So you can have 2 separate ribbons. If you look, now I'm not going to move it because we can. So if you look really carefully at right there, there's spots below for the white ink, and you can also have red ink. So you could have 3 different types of ink ribbons. You could have the red, you could have the black, and the white.
Oh, and you can switch on the fly?
You can switch. So what you would do is, if you made a mistake with the spelling, you would press backspace, you would switch it over to the white, you would type in the same letter that would erase the mistake, then you'd press backspace, switch it back to the black ink, and then you'd press the correct letter that you want to put. So correcting a mistake with a typewriter was very, like I said, painstaking. So it taught people to be very accurate with how they spelled with a typewriter. And so if you're trying to teach someone to spell nowadays, a typewriter is a great way to do it. And I think with, I can't remember, we were talking about last week with George about, writing with a quill pen or writing with a fountain pen or whatever, that it's slower. Writing with a typewriter is also slower. But the other thing is that there's this rhythm of typing, and this, I think, frankly, more masculine way, because you're actually hitting a key, it's making sound, it's creating this almost machine-like rhythm. There's
a rhythm to it, yeah.
For example, that's why I think a lot of men are very reluctant to buy into the idea of an electric car, because there's no engine, it's very quiet, whereas they like the sound of that combustion engine. They like the sound of that V12 or V8.
They like the idea that it gargles fuel.
Yeah. There's fire, and there's
yeah.
There's movement there. Yeah, there's motion and movement. That's
fucking
really...
car is shaking.
Yeah, I haven't seen the episode, but people have told me that there's one of Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson gets a hold of a typewriter, and he's sitting there in his office
just hitting keys.
Yeah, he's just doing it, and he goes, with original return carriage.
Nice.
For the typewriter. And everyone's just looking around wanting to murder him, and there's nothing they can do about it, because he's laughing. That's where if you watch this is where being a reporter back in the day, 50, 60, 70 years ago, for me, would have been great, because the idea of going into a newsroom and hearing all that going on would sort of create a momentum for people. Whereas you go into a newsroom today, and
old phones ringing, cigarette smoke.
There'd be cigarette.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea how the old timers, how much drinking was involved.
Oh yeah. Oh, I do actually.
One guy. Did I tell this story on an episode where this was an old time reporter who was sort of coaching me back in the day when I was a young 20-year-old something, and he was telling me about the time he got stranded in a newsroom due to some sort of natural disaster. It was like a windstorm or whatever, and he couldn't get out, and he was going through all the different desks trying to find food, and what he found instead were in the sports editor's desk, he found cognac, whiskey. He found all this. He said that there was enough liquor to start his own liquor store.
Nice.
So he found a bunch of snack bars and some cognac to sip on the whole night. But yeah, there was a lot.
There you go.
Right. And so now you go in, and this is where people really need to understand when we're talking about the state of journalism today. You have to look back, say 70 years ago, and the crop of people who were involved, completely different type of individuals and different mindset, where newsrooms used to be the area where the free speech zones, where you could say whatever you wanted.
Oh yeah.
And you all the stuff that we're doing now, the kind of bantering it back and forth and giving each other crap and giving each other nicknames, that was what a newsroom was about, where anything went, as long as you weren't threatening to kill someone. Occasionally, if they were drinking too much, that might occur, but they were joking. That kind of stuff would go on. You have to watch some of the older 40s and 30s films that feature journalism. Not saying that they're most super accurate, but they give that sort of vibe.
There's that feel, that vibe, that you're talking about. Yeah.
They were going after mafia. They were going after actual government corruption. They weren't following individual private citizens around on their social media accounts, making sure that they were saying politically correct. They weren't enforcers
for the narrative.
They weren't enforcers for the narrative necessarily. That really changed after World War II.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Very cool.
I like it. I may have to go pick that one up that I was talking about. We'll see.
I have another geek thing to show.
Oh, cool.
This is only for those of you who have ever played The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. So this is a shield that you find in the game. This is a solid piece of bark that I found on a beach in California.
Oh, check that out.
So I had no idea what to do with it, so I decided to make it into a shield.
Did you bring that back on a plane?
No, I was in a car.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of putting handles on it and trying to sell it on eBay, since it cost me nothing to make. You
probably could.
Yeah.
And then you'll get requests for more.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Well, no, then I got to come up with more bark, because this was.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, come on! You already know where you need to go. You already got the pipeline figured out.
Right. Well, no.
Send your bark to TJ.
There we go, you dude. You're gonna get tons of it now, man. You're gonna wake up and the UPS is gonna be out there with a fuck ton of bark.
TJ's gonna have to create an account on Etsy now.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, I think that's a nightmare everybody has, where they're trying to do a side gig thing to make money, and then it just explodes and turns into, like with Cappy's consulting firm, where he doesn't know what to do with all the requests.
Oh yeah.
We should just start charging more, frankly.
But up the rates. You'll weed out the bullshitters, and you'll just keep the serious ones then.
It's kind of like that membership dues membership you were talking about, that kind of mindset. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And almost, that'll be an interesting thing to talk about, maybe in more detail in the future for a extended podcast or episode, is the idea of social clubs, because I think that we've gotten to the point where the public sphere is so regular. And I don't know if you saw, but Twitter is planning to get rid of likes and retweets.
Really?
What's the point of Twitter then?
Well, that's exactly the point. And I think so let's chat a little bit about that. I think that we are witnessing, and with Blockbuster, for people who haven't been watching a lot of these episodes or other discussions we've had, Blockbuster's zenith was in, I believe, 2006. It had the most stores and it completely changed the way that rental videos were going on. By 2010, the company went bankrupt. And so there's only one store left now in the nation.
Isn't it in Alaska?
Yeah, it's in Alaska, where there's
Why does that not surprise me?
And then you had Sears Roebuck and Company, which completely changed the way that you would get stuff. You could order anything you wanted online or on
their catalog.
Mail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now Amazon's come, and then there's Facebook that's changed. All these companies have changed the way we've done things, but that stuff doesn't last forever. And I think Facebook, where things shut down today, I think that we're on the precipice of a very pivotal moment with social media, because we've been doing this experiment for, about 13 years, a little bit longer, but
it's about 15 years. Yeah.
Right. And so what's going to be next? I think that and the other thing that we have to understand that's changed is that the people, there's liabilities now to speaking your mind publicly in social media.
Well, it's also changing the landscape of law.
Right. I think that we're going to end up going back to that stuff where you have a website that's really just for people, where you enter the group, you pay a monthly fee, and in exchange for that, you get vetted. You have to provide your actual name. You have to provide prove who you say you are, and you have to pay a monthly fee, and you get access to the group. It's not a Facebook group. It's a club. Maybe they don't call it a club, but it's a club. And it gives you access to other people like-minded on certain topics, and you can discuss stuff, and someone's controlling the rules. I think that's the biggest thing, is the terms and service. You're having people on Twitter from completely different walks of life, people who have different disagreements that are greater than that started wars in the past, trying to engage civilly on the same platform. That's completely unrealistic. And so you can't have a platform that works globally. But it makes sense if you're going to have one that's only for people of certain. It's not going to be an echo chamber, but you're also going to have clear, consistent rules. And you walk into that situation where people have the same values already, so they're not going to be these disputes that you have to have.
That's very similar to what Gab was doing, or Gab is doing.
Yeah, the problem is Gab wanted to be a free speech zone. That causes problems as well, where essentially it was anarchy for a while. You have to have rules. Like with a social club, you're going to have rules. This is the way you treat each other. This is all the stuff. And if you don't like that, don't be part of the club. But we have this thing today that's not sustainable. It's not realistic. It's ahistorical. All societies throughout history have always maintained rules that are implicit of, if you want to be part of this community, you've got to adhere to these rules. This idea that diversity is our strength is the most nonsensical
bullshit.
It's the most nonsensical thing I can imagine, because what's the strength of bringing in someone who's going to bring up disputes, conflict, and tension that otherwise wouldn't exist without them? Bringing someone in to destabilize a group that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and this forced diversity is just no,
right,
ridiculous.
So I think that's really where things got to start going, and more importantly, it's going to be where people can speak their minds and talk to each other in a closed group where they're not being spied on, or they feel like they're being monitored. No one's going to go, and that'll be where they can say, if you're part of this group and it's found that you are leaking discussions, it's say $1,000 fine. And you almost, what they could do, the club could put what do you call it? The same way a landlord will require a deposit, a security deposit. So they'll say, if you want to go rent this room from me, you got to put down a security deposit of $400, and when you move out, you get the money back. They may do the same thing and keep that in case somebody violates the rules in a way that they don't get that money if they want to leave the group or whatever. I don't know. This is where it can get really, really fascinating, is how that plays out. I just think that what we're seeing right now is the end of an era of an experiment that's gone on for the last 13 years or 10 years or so on. I think Twitter really changed it, but after what's been going on now, I don't think it's going to continue for very much longer.
No, it'll change to something else. It'll evolve. It'll morph. I'm thinking, to me, the next step, and we're seeing it. I mean, hell, we're kind of doing it right now. It's where everything's gone to video. And you've got virtual reality. I think you're going to see, I guess, the next social media platform, it's going to be like specifically virtual reality type of thing, kind of like a lot of the online games. Whether you can choose your own avatar or you have to use some facsimile of who you actually are. I think that instead of a lot of chat and posting and a lot of text, I think you might see it go more kind of like what we're doing right now, that it'll be real time people talking to each other.
Yeah, well, you know what was really interesting is I saw a game that is in a experimental or beta version, but it's called War of Rights, and it's, you know how Call of Duty has multiplayer, you would fight. It's that, but for the Civil War.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, online only. And so the I don't quite I just learned about today. So, but I think it's for. I understand why a lot of men love online games because it allows them to disconnect from a society and culture that they don't like, they don't agree with. It's not theirs. They have no say. The rules don't make any sense. It's inconsistent. And they also aren't allowed to engage in the kind of activities or adventures or stuff that they can do in a simulated reality that men can do online playing a Civil War game. For me, frankly, that kind of thing sounds really cool. My only reservation about even touching that game would be getting addicted to it. Because I get home, I can do all this work, or I can go, fight the Battle of Gettysburg or Antietam with a bunch of guys online, and you can live vicariously through those kind of worlds. And it's just that's I think where the hard balance for a masculine geek is enjoying this stuff but not letting it consume him, and using it as a substitute for the real life. I think that's really where the struggle occurs.
It really is
escapism.
Yeah, that actually was me when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons. It was just Dungeons and Dragons every week, creating the stories and the adventures, and then having my life as a young man revolve around that. The internet wasn't a thing, and I had my small circle of friends, and I worked D&D, girls here and there, but that was it. There was no other pursuits. It wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s that started to change. So,
right. Yeah, the appeal is there, and society's only made it more appealing because it makes more sense for the it's so much easier. You can create a world where you have more control, you have more say over what goes on, and what's the worst that could happen, right? Whereas society's created I say society, but we live in a world where there's all these liabilities and risks for doing stuff out in the outside world, but going onto a computer, you're not going to get into trouble for playing an online game. You're not going to get in trouble with it. No one's going to lose their job as long as you show up for work. But I'm talking about where people get in trouble for what they do outside of work. Nobody's going to get in trouble for playing an online game for 10 hours on Saturday when they got a weekday job, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Nobody's going to say, we think you play too many video games out. It's a type of hobby where it's considered okay to be obsessed over, where you're not going to have a hit piece written on you.
Let's hope not. Anyway, let's hope have a
hit,
because you were teabagging and shit talking on your
teabagging.
Well,
you know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I know.
The first time I ever saw that on a game, and I was like, "What in the holy fuck is this?" And it's like, "Oh, he's teabagging me."
You're talking about teabagging, and you're stroking a pussy at the same time. So,
well, pussy and teabagging. What can I say?
There you go.
They go hand in hand.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that right now. I think that's why there was such pushback with the whole Gamergate thing, is that for a lot of these men, this was it. This was the last place for them to escape, and it's being circumvented or taken over or subverted and converged by people who are really just there to police them and control what they can say and not say.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know.
It's frustrating at the least.
Well, and that's why the social clubs are going to come about. For me, it's inevitable, because at a certain point, men can't stand not being able to control who they're associating with, so they go and form a new group. But as I've always said, the first thing when you're forming a new group is the number one thing is being able to maintain those boundaries, being able to control who's allowed in and out.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to have the first Masculine Geek meetup social group.
Right.
Not for anything. If you want to do it, we create it.
Right. I'm saying for these guys online, if they're playing a game or they're doing whatever they're doing.
Oh, okay. I came in on a conversation that I hadn't heard.
Right. You have.
Yeah, catch up, Vince. Fuck.
I know. God damn. That's what happens when you go take a piss.
Yeah, it's always about, you got to be able to control who's allowed in and out, because if you don't, then the idea of something being something is destroyed. Every group, in order to be something, has to not be something. And if you can't delineate and if you can't define, then it calls into question the very purpose of the group's existence. And that's
I get what you're saying.
Right. And so that's why I say social clubs, like the idea of having social clubs and controlling who's allowed in and who's allowed in to the group and to become a member, is going to be the appeal of them. Is you can set rules for who's allowed to be members. And frankly, I think that here's what's going to be the progression. Social clubs are going to come about. They're going to reemerge. They're going to prove popular. People who want to infiltrate them and converge them and destroy them won't be able to do so at first. Then they'll go and pass laws saying you can't discriminate based on this and this and this, and it's determined by us, and it's always discriminatory when we don't like, if we're not allowed in. And then there's going to be social clubs that are going to be informal, where you just go do something together. And it'll be, I hope society doesn't get to that point, but I don't see any alternative really.
That's a good point. I think we've progressed too far down the PC. You can't say what you need to say or want to say without having someone, shout you down or try to stop you. It may come down to just the informal group.
Well, and this is the why there's the alternative media or the dissident media, is because the regular media has been converged to the point where you can't say certain things even if it's true. And so once you make a certain section or certain topics not discussable, that creates a unmet demand, or it provides opportunity for someone to jump on it and say, hey, if they're not gonna report on it, we will.
That's true.
And the same thing with all these different clubs, like with Boy Scouts. Now there's a unmet demand for an organization for boys to become men. That doesn't exist right now anymore. Boy Scouts is no longer there. Sorry, Boy Scouts doesn't exist anymore. Now there's just Scouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're a father, if you're a father who wants to have his son grow and interact with other young boys and deal with all that stuff and and learn how to be self-reliant and learn all these skills, it's no longer in Scouts. That organization's first and foremost priority now is being inclusive for the girls. And they're not going to get any rewards for helping a young boy now become Eagle Scout. Now that's going to be all about making sure that there's equality and equity with the number of girl Eagle Scouts that are coming out. And they even just did that now. They created a girls only scout troop. I think it was in Alabama.
Yeah, I saw it. Don't even get me started. I can't. We're living in fucking clown world with this shit. I had to. I think Rob and I were talking about this. You have to really, and it may have been said in the chat too, you really have to stop paying attention to social media.
That's right.
Even if it's down to looking at your Twitter feed randomly, it'll piss you off.
Yep.
So
stop consuming what isn't intended for you.
Exactly. So I'm limiting that. And I've also found that I'm more productive with what I want to do rather than being a consumer. And even if I'm not outraged, you still have this like little burning, like it's like at the injustice of it, that this is allowed to actually continue and people are not saying anything. and you're like, fuck. So, you know, I only look at it certain times a day. I pay attention to masculine geek stuff because we're controlling this. This is ours. And then that's it.
Now, I do want to say, though, there is value to, I follow this stuff actually religiously on social media. And the reason I do is because I want to stay as informed about what's going on in society and culture as possible. I have to, now sometimes I got to detox and just step away from it.
I want to say, how do you like, what's your compartmentalization process, as it were?
Yeah, no shit. How do you, I guess, remove the taint?
Yeah.
Well, I have struggled to do that, which is why I've kind of just stepped away from it and said, fuck it. You know, it's enjoy the decline and I'm going to do my thing and not worry about what other motherfuckers are doing. You know, so how do you do it? Because inquiring minds want to know.
You have to understand I'm going to veer off from masculine geek stuff for a moment, but you have to understand and perceive reality as accurately as possible. And for me, it's that I live in a empire. I don't live in a country. I live in an empire full of people that have really nothing in common outside of their mutual consumption and market interests, meaning they work jobs, they all that other stuff. Everything else is that. And so I don't you lower your expectations down to, I don't expect anyone to be doing anything that's mutually with me in anything outside of the economy. And also what it does is it allows me to understand where we're headed so that I can prepare for that and I can be ready for that and understand how am I going to respond when this happens. Because I see so many, this is where the advantage comes in. When stuff does come out in society, for example, this huge insanity going on with the national politics right now, and the proposals being made, this was all for me completely predictable years ago. I knew that it was headed down this path, but for a lot of people, they suddenly pull their head out of this and they're like, what happened to my country? Where did this come from? And it's because they don't want to know, they don't follow what's going on. And also it allows you to anticipate and plan accordingly. So my plan is just to not invest in anything other than what I have direct control over. I understand that I should not invest too much in any organization that I'm not directly in control of, because chances are it's going to be converged. Someone's going to, a SJW or a ideologue will come in and change the organization's purpose and meaning to suit the narrative. And I have zero faith in any leader of any group to maintain the boundaries, to hold the line. And when you understand that people who think like us are on our own, you don't expect solutions to come about through politics. I've got friends of mine who are big into, you know, they think that their savior is going to march in DC and change everything. And tomorrow, the birds are going to chirp and there'll be chocolate rivers and gumdrop fields. They think that, you know,
hey, why are you making fun of Willy Wonka?
There'll be puppies in every house and everybody will be happy.
For everyone.
And you understand that. And so you're like you were saying, people don't follow that stuff, but they're not doing anything about it. So so for me, it's important to, this is where I started to have these epiphanies where I looked at people who were complaining about this stuff and I said, what are you going to do about it? And I was asking people who are all the big on the revolution and the founding fathers and independence and all that other stuff. And I was saying, so what are you going to do about it? And they would not give a very good answer. So for me, it was a litmus test of knowing there is nothing that can be, that there is no proposal. There's nothing too radical that will be proposed where we're going to actually see any kind of pushback or resistance, save for somebody going after their Social Security or their Medicaid or something like that. Other than that, it'll occur. So don't look to anybody to save you. Don't expect anybody to do anything for you. If you want to see something done, you do it. Don't be looking around for anybody. Don't be listening to any of these politicians who are going to tell you that they're going to make your life better and they're going to solve your student loan problems, or they're going to help make the food taste better. Or they're going to make your wife and girlfriend more attractive. All this other, it's not going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen.
That's true. But in light, I mean, so you're following all this and you're You're not getting too overwhelmed, but after a while, does it get to you? And if so, what do you do to mitigate that? That's what Rob and I were getting at.
Oh, gotcha. This is why I work out for 2 hours every day.
That'll do it. Yes.
I also go a lot to. There was an event that occurred nationally that the reaction from my people, meaning people who claim to believe the same stuff I do, was so bad. I went on a 7-mile hike out in the middle of nowhere. I just wanted to get away from everything. I wanted to get away from everybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I just tried to process how, not trying to get dark here, but how alone it can be to see this stuff and be one of the few people who are calling it out. Or not calling it out, but just knowing it's bad and knowing that you got to do something about it. And I'm not saying you can stop something from happening and prevent it, but what are you going to do to mitigate its impact on your life? This is where we separate the losers without a gainful employment or whatever Rob was saying, the bums from the men. Because what it is,
you flannel shirt wearing bums.
The masculine man sees a problem and says, "What action can I take to mitigate its impact on my life?" If there's a proposal that impacts me, and that's why I follow social media and all this stuff. I want to know stuff that's going to impact me. I want to know about social changes that are going on. I want to know about how, because it's all occurring on social media. Our society's norms are not changing in real life. They're being codified on Twitter and through blogs and all this other stuff. So you watch it and you see them changing the transformation of our country is occurring on social media.
In real time, yeah.
In real time. And so once you see the social clubs form, that platform to make the changes will no longer be there. See, that's where it's really going to get interesting, is when there's people who are going to say, yeah, we don't care. We're off in our own little club and we don't need to listen to you anymore. And you can't see, Twitter is we're all a congregation. Twitter is the sanctuary from which we are preached at. I want to know what the powers that be are telling us we're supposed to think. I want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what their plan is, and they're openly saying what their plan is, so we can anticipate what they're going to do. But ignoring it, I know it's frustrating, but again, that's what
well, I wouldn't say ignore it entirely, but taking a break from it, having like you got to detox. Social media fast, as it were.
It's like radiation, right? You go in and you can tolerate, or like you can be exposed to it for a certain amount of time, but you got to step away from it. This is why I recommend people. Frankly, this is why I have a TV that's a box TV, no cable, and I have a VHS. I also sometimes will get on my 10-year-old laptop that has no connection to the internet and play 20-year-old video games where I just want to disconnect entirely. And I throw my phone in some hidden place in the house where you have that capacity to unplug. And there's some days I don't want to know what's going on, or I've said, that's enough internet for today. But I think what's really frustrating is seeing other people being aware of what's going on and just shrugging their shoulders. And they're essentially saying, we're going to go with the flow. We're not going to take action. We're not going to disassociate from what's going on. Right.
Gotcha.
They say, well, that's them. That's not us. We're going to go off and do our own thing. We're going to go form our own group and we're going to ignore them. But no, everybody, it's like somebody who subscribes to a newspaper, opens it up, complains about the content, but won't unsubscribe from the newspaper. That's what I see writ large in society.
Gotcha. Okay. All good points. What do you say, Rob?
Well, I guess I'm a subscriber, if you want to call it that, to Jack Donovan's thoughts, The Way of Men, where he talks about the empire of nothing and living within it. And to kind of go off of what TJ's talking about, where he's talking about social clubs, the thing I wanted to bring up and get maybe some of TJ's perspective on this would be, for lack of better words, do you think that with these social clubs or whatever the next phase is? Do you think it's going to be more tribal? I guess, that it's your local community, it's the people around you, kind of like how we were back in the day. Is instead of this big global thing, it is going to be tribal. Because even in my opinion, that I know with the stuff I do on my own channel, it's kind of tribalistic in a way. It's definitely guys that have a certain point of view. And even with Masculine Geek, we're drawing in people that have kind of the same point of view. It is its own tribe, so to speak, or its own gang, if you want to call it that. I kind of like that one better. Just tribe is so overused.
Right. I guess I have mixed thoughts, because the reality is that because we're living in an empire that's forcing us all to associate with people that we wouldn't normally associate with, the tribe and our identity is almost based on our defiance, like being in a rebellion against that. And I think that that's forced a lot of people to associate with people that they, in other circumstances and other times in history, would not have associated. So I think that it is going to become definitely more tribal. And that's what I'm really frustrated with wanting to see happen, is people seeing what's going on in our society, saying, this doesn't represent me in any way. I don't identify with it in any way. It's not my values. This isn't my culture. It has nothing to do with me. These people don't speak my language. And I don't mean English, Spanish, whatever. I mean, the words that they use do not mean the same thing as the words that I use. And so let's go do our own thing. But no, everybody's got this idea that we've all got to do this together. We've all got to be together. We can't break apart.
And that historically does not work.
Right. It's not only historically doesn't work, but they won't even entertain the thought in their own mind. Meaning, I sometimes will say, well, I'm not one of them. And they'll say, well, of course you are. You're in the United States. You're a U.S. citizen. So are they? And I go, great. That's a piece of paper that they got from the feds. That doesn't mean it. I've come down to it is that the basic definition of a tribe or gang, or whatever you want to call it, that I've really thought about is, you think about people to whom you have a sense of duty and obligation, and vice versa, where there's mutual obligation to each other. If that doesn't exist, you're not part of the same group. So if somebody doesn't think that they owe you the same respect, courtesy, honesty, integrity, consistency, and reliability that they expect of you, you don't owe them anything. I don't owe people anything who don't owe me anything, or have I'm not loyal to people who I don't have a sense of obligation to people who are not loyal to me in the corresponding way.
Agreed.
But the problem is, people who would normally be part of my group are still stuck in that mindset of the
global community save everybody.
Right. Well, and also they're scared of that because it shatters their perception of what's going on, or maybe they're just in denial about how bad things are. Because I'm not wanting to get political, but it's unavoidable. We all grew up reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. And the key part is indivisible. Like, we've got to be this one nation now and forever. And I laugh and I think, where has that ever been the historical trend? That's like somebody saying, I pledge allegiance to the Roman Empire, now, indivisible. Well, you may have thought that, you may have loved that idea, but, talk to the Romans after the sacking by the barbarians, or what Europe looks like now. So there's so many things that people think is so that is not so, and they don't. I don't know. It's really hard to. You really have to spend a lot of time unraveling all the different implicit beliefs you have about the world around you that just isn't so. When you understand that, you develop a healthier expectation of what to expect. It can frustrate, but it's still not going to be. My expectations, I feel like, are more realistic. They do make me a little sad from time to time, because what I want to see happen and what's actually happening with people that I think would be great to have as part of my group, my tribe, if you will, won't do that, because they're stuck in the postmodern West mindset of it's materialism. It's about making as much money as possible. It's about Netflix and chill. It's about it's about being an NPC or something like that. But they won't break out of this mindset, and that's
that mindset is very comfortable.
I wouldn't even say it's comfortable, because it stresses people out. Why? I mean, look at the opioid addiction. Look at all the prescription drugs that people are on.
Well, all right, let me rephrase that. Or describe that a little bit. It's comfortable because there's no.
It's all you know.
It's all you know, and then it's familiar. The devil you know, and you don't really have to do anything. You're a victim, and that's just the way it is. And then you don't have to expend any effort to change or make a change, whether that's a small community change or in yourself. And it comes back to what you were talking about, being masculinity is seeing these issues or these stressors arising in your life and meeting them head on and dealing with them, not blaming someone else, not blaming depression or anxiety or the government or your spouse or your friends. You own the problem and you attempt to fix it.
Right.
So,
I mean, even if you think that the way things are going right now that are in a bad direction, or things that are being done now, I would almost separate two different groups of people. People who believed that anything after the 1960s was bad and it's been progress, nothing but progress ever since. And then you've got people who live in this dream world where there was nothing bad going on before everything was perfect before the 1960s and it all got ruined. Then you have people like me who say, we had a lot of good things that we've tossed out. Maybe it's time for us to do the brave thing and actually look at some of that and say, maybe they had it right. And I'm not even talking about the 1900s. I'm doing research on the Middle Ages and the medieval times. And our perception of that period is very different from what actually occurred historically on a lot of things. Not everything, but on a lot of things. And so that mindset makes you open to certain things that people have been taught. Oh, that's not debate. That's not for debate. Dark Ages, it was ignorance, it was, superstition, all that other stuff. Or say with anything before the 1960s, anything that's associated with that is just verboten. You can't even think about it. And we're seeing the same thing with, and you wonder, well, what does that have to do with my life? It comes down to the most basic interactions that you have with people, where when you're being told, say you're having a discussion with someone and you're being told, that's you're patronizing, you're mansplaining. You're like, I'm not mansplaining. Yes, you are, and it's a form of oppression. It's weaponizing patriarchy.
Point and sputter.
We don't live in a patriarchy. The fact that you deny it means we do, and all this other stuff.
This is so fucking stupid.
Well, but then you start getting down that rabbit hole, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Why is all of this such a? Or it's part of the narrative. The narrative is that we live in a patriarchy. It's oppressive, and you got to be an active participant in fighting against it. And if you do any of these things, you're complicit, because that's what
it's. Yeah, you go down that rabbit hole. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're wrong.
Right. Yeah. And so you have to break out of that narrative, because if you don't, then they can control you with it. And this is where people get really stuck and restricted in what they're allowed to say and not say, because here's the thing about being the political correctness. In my humble opinion, it's like making valid evidence inadmissible in a court of a public opinion. So if you ever watched the movie Dirty Harry, they discovered the killer's rifle, but they couldn't use it in court because it had been obtained without a warrant. Well, that's a politically correct argument to make. It's, this information, it's not a question of whether it's true or factually correct. It's not correct to say that. And so you can't use that in an argument over whether what we're saying is accurate description of reality.
That's true.
So all these things that we will be able to discuss in the future when we have a social club to talk about it.
Well, That's
I mean,
in the works.
That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're having discussions that Ben would used to have. Benjamin Franklin did it when he was starting out his newspapers.
I'm actually doing. I have several articles in work which will be out soon, and one of them is about his junto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He would have literary circles, and they would discuss philosophy, and they would have all these different intellectual conversations that really are great to have.
Yeah, and it was also a way from the touch base and motivate and keep each other accountable.
Right. I think that's also another thing that's fallen away is we've almost contracted out who holds us accountable. Now it's a bunch of screeching, pearl clutching journalists. I say this as a report. I write about industry and business and other stuff, so I can say this. But these pearl clutching reporters who
fluff pieces.
Well, you know what they are? They are I'll give a story from when I was a kid. So I was doing a project on the Oregon Trail, and I brought in these toys as part of my exhibit. And as part of the exhibit, the toy cowboys or guys on the horses had guns, like little revolvers, literally this big. And one of the tattletales in my class looked at it, turned to the teacher, and was screeching about how I brought guns to school. And she was saying I brought guns to school. My teacher turned around, looked at her, and just said, "Shut up!" Like in so many words, "Shut up."
Yeah, pretty much.
Now that was back then. Nowadays, I'd have been handcuffed. Well, this was at a very small private school where reason often prevailed with some of the teachers. So that's a different story. But if I was at a public school and someone said that, I mean, there was that kid who was twirling his pencil around, and the kid said he pointed it at me like a gun, sent him to juvie, and he almost did get sent to juvie as a result. It just the hysteria. I think that's another thing that we're trying. This is a safe space from is the hysteria over nothing. Just people who have a total lack of self-control over their emotions. They're addicted to getting outraged and indignant.
Agreed. So I'm in the chat. Keep going. I'm listening. Okay.
Oh, that's all I really had to say about the war of Vietnam.
Gotcha. That's all I have to say about that. I was shot in the buttocks.
We were always out walking around in the rain looking for this guy, Charlie. We never did find him, though.
I may not be a smart man, Jenny, but I know what love is.
The Amish must keep that money because I ain't seen a dime of it. Okay, I guess we can end on our question on that. What is your thoughts on Forrest Gump? Because I have friends of mine who absolutely hate it, friends of mine who absolutely love it, and then people who thought it's overrated.
Well, if you look at it with a red pill lens, you're just going to get pissed off. It's a prime example. Yeah, it's a prime example of certain of things.
Well, no, it's his kid. It's his kid.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm talking about the whole hypergamy thing going on with those two.
Right.
The whole thing is just fuck. But if you look at it looking at it from just it'd be pretty much. But if you just suspend your disbelief, forget that for a while, it's mildly entertaining.
Yeah. That's where I think that also we as masculine men, red pill men, need to be able to put aside that lens for a moment and enjoy some films, because there are films out there.
That's one of the reasons why Masculine Geek exists too, because I don't want to be stuck in that echo chamber, but at the same time being self-aware of reality across everything in your life is important. But at the same time, guys need to make sure that they can't lose that little kid in them.
Right.
That has to be there. That has to be there. And part of being a masculine geek is making sure you're balancing your warrior spirit with this little kid that still exists in you. You never get out of that. You never. I'm sorry. And if you say then no, you're lying. But it's important to honor that. And I think that is to have that balance is extremely attractive to women. It is.
Right. Yeah, and I think that that's also you lose the ability to enjoy a lot of films that look, they're products of their time. And this is and frankly, this is the criticism that I level at a lot of people who look at, especially people now who are looking at films. They're looking at John Wayne. Can you imagine what he said in the Playboy back in 1971? Yeah, I could totally believe he said that.
Yeah.
He was born in 1910 or whatever. What did you expect him to be thinking? That's the culture he was raised in. And so we have to understand when we're enjoying art or entertainment, whether it's video games or comics or films, they are products of their time. And unless it's so heavy-handed, unless it's deliberate propaganda, right, where it's so in your face, like no generation after this has ever or ever will look at the last social justice warrior Star Wars film and say that was a good film, because it was, as a piece of art, it was, it was worse than a Thomas Kincaid painting, frankly.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel.
You don't like Thomas Kincaid? Or is it just overdone?
It's Kish. But Star Wars was even worse than Kish. It was a poorly attempted, because you can do propaganda really well. Go watch Triumph of the Will. That people sort of say.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little more subtle.
It has tried to use that. Like Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, there's that one scene at the very end of A New Hope that is taken directly from the way that they shot that scene, was taken from that film. So it was, cinematography wise, it was done well. Ideology, not so much. But you watch a lot of films that came out, especially like Home Improvement. I love Home Improvement, but Jill's the mom's got this whole feminist, quasi-feminist thing every now and then, where she wants to be a working mom and she wants to go out into the workforce and she's kind of on her career. But it's not heavy-handed, and we shouldn't be where we're the crybabies every time we see. And they do digs at her as well throughout the show, where they give her crap on stuff, and it's not just a beating up on Tim. He's just a dumb man.
It was a nice balance.
Right. And so you can enjoy that TV. You can be a masculine man who enjoys Last Man Standing and Home Improvement, right? You can enjoy both TV shows with Tim Allen. And so when I see that stuff, I just go, you know what? It was the 90s. And that's that is just part of what the culture was, rather than, as opposed to a show that's trying to actually change and trying to push stuff. That's what I felt like shows such as House was actually trying to do. They were trying to, because it was always involving these weird, bizarre lifestyles, like open marriages, or everybody was cheating on each other and the medical thing was showing it up. And it's almost trying to say that, or there was the one episode where the both couples are working in the adult film industry and they're trying to normalize and say, oh, it's just, it's just our jobs. We go home and we're a perfectly normal couple. It's like, no, you're not. You guys are crazy. You guys are weird.
That'd be very difficult to.
You're not part of my group.
Yeah.
And so you watch any of these old-fashioned films where they've got some of that the blue pill stuff. Guys, just have a drink and just chill, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we're going to get ready to sign off here. We're over the 2-hour mark. This was that went by very quickly.
I know.
Yeah, it did.
That was quite enjoyable. I hope everyone watching has enjoyed themselves as well. And Rob, you want to go ahead and do the like?
Yeah, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, you like the video, and share it with anyone that you think could benefit from it. So make sure you do all that, guys.
Excellent. You want to go ahead and plug your stuff?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Anything you're doing new?
Yeah, well, no, I'm just working on my, just chugging along, writing my little articles and doing my YouTube stuff. You can find me at robsays.net. That's ROBSAYS.net. If you go to, I've got a link to my YouTube channel. If you go to the contact or the about, I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the contact. It's got my Twitter. It's got the YouTube channel. Again, that's kind of my command station, I guess, that if you want to find me in other social media platforms or any of that, just go to robsays.net. That's my blog. I got new stuff coming out pretty much daily. At least one blog post a week, videos at least once a week. Same with my podcast that you can find on anchor.fm/redpilled.
TJ, you're next.
So yeah, you can go to my website, tjmartinell.com. You can also go to soundcloud.com/tjmartinell. That's where I do my weekly Mountain Pass podcast about life living in the mountains. If you are really interested in reading a novel about fake news, you can read the original one that I published before that even came out, and it's called The Stringers. It's this novel series. You can go find it on Amazon. If you buy the physical copy, which I recommend, you can get the print version for free. And then there's a sequel and the prequel that's already come out.
Excellent. You can find me at vincelarosa.com, obviously masculinegeek.com. And speaking of that, I mentioned this in the chat. Go to masculinegeek.com, and the upper right-hand corner is the sign-up, the little MailChimp sign-up for our newsletter, which will drop every Monday, and which will be an amalgamation of interesting topics, varying lengths from all three of us. You just write down all three different viewpoints and interesting things that we'll be writing about. I'm going to plug SoundCloud as well. Go to Sound if you want to listen to the audio while you're working out, or you're driving, or what have you. Go to SoundCloud.com and just type in Masculine Geek, and go ahead and download or listen to our audio from there. Let's see what else. Oh, Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, go to Twitter and type in Masculine Geek numeral 1, Masculine Geek 1, and then go ahead and add us as a friend. And you can interact with us there. And obviously YouTube channel, which you're watching now. And that's it. That's it for us. Oh, and make sure you get your Legends of Tabletop Legendary Brew coffee. It's amazing. You'll love it. All right, everyone. Thanks. You what?
And get chopsticks.
Yes, make sure you get the chopsticks and use the Vortex method, because that's the only way to optimize the taste of your coffee.
At a molecular level.
At the molecular level. All right, we're going to sign off for now. Sign up for the newsletter. It's going to drop on Monday, and then you'll see us again next Wednesday. Everyone have a good night, and thank you for joining us.
See you guys.